GTR, an acronym that stands for Gran Turismo Racing, which in and of itself is kind of weird because Gran Turismo is Italian for a luxury-oriented sports car, and Nissan GTRs pre-R35 are, you know, Nissan Skylines, which not inherently luxurious. Anyway, Nissan stole a fancy Italian word and turned it into something that stands for much more than a pinky out sports car. GTR stands for unbridled performance. It stands for power. It stands for world domination. It means being the best in the world. But while the GTR was extremely successful in racing, and its success in racing undoubtedly played a huge role with its reputation, and even gave the brand its very own nickname, Godzilla. But underneath the fame and the racing pedigree, do the street cars hold up to their reputation? In stock form, are these cars the supercar killers we've come to assume them to be? Should you meet your heroes? Well, today we're going to put that theory to the absolute test because we're going to look at some cars that will outperform a BNR34 GTR. And just for shits and giggles, I'm going to show you how to do all of that for less than 15 grand. Yep, you guys heard that right. I'm about to learn you some cars that will shit on the holy grail of GTRs for just 15 grand. Let's get started. The BNR34 Skyline GTR is pretty well universally known to be one of the most badass, fastest, coolest cars of all time. Like, even at the most basic level of car knowledge, most people know what this car is and have an affection for them in some way. Whether it's from the racing success making an impact on your life during its era of domination, or maybe you grew up watching the Fast Saga.
It's got one of those big shiny things with a lot of tubes and curly coils coming out of it.
Or playing Need for Speed. All of these things held the R34 GTR on the highest of standards. And while the Skyline GTR was an absolute brute of a JDM sports car that is full of charm, stunningly aggressive good looks, and built on a platform that can be built to the moon and back, I don't think people truly understand that all these 1,000 horsepower GTRs have so much time and money and custom parts put into them to make them as insane as they are. But in stock form, the R34 GTR is doing 0 to 60 in just slower than 4.5 seconds and rolls through the light at the quarter mile in the lower middle end of the 13-second range, putting down about 280, 290 all-wheel horsepower, which is pretty impressive in my opinion, considering the, 276 horsepower crank rating that they were listed to have. It was certainly a fast car when it came out. I mean, it was beating up on Mark IV Super Turbos, largely due to its all-wheel drive advantage, considering they're roughly the same horsepower and roughly the same weight. But that also means there's some cars rolling around on a street near you that you wouldn't even take a second look at that would completely stomp on a stock R34 GTR and do it for a lot less money. And first up is a car that's kind of already on the upswing price-wise. Now, I'm not gonna lie and say to you guys that a $10,000 to $15,000 example isn't gonna be high mileage, but it can be done with a little bit of research and knowledge on the platform. The E39 BMW M5 is an absolute slayer of an automobile that nobody wants to buy because it's an old BMW M car with a bunch of Vanos issues and a bunch of other weird, complicated shit. But what you get here is a very well-sorted chassis that handles its fat weight very, very well. Couple that with a high-revving, race car-inspired individual throttle body having 4.9-liter naturally aspirated V8 that makes 400 horsepower. And that 400 horsepower is good for 0 to 60 in a not GTR slaying 4.8 seconds because two-wheel drive. However, give it a quarter mile of room to let that V8 outpower the all-wheel drive system and you'll cross the finish line 0.3 of a second ahead of the GTR. 0.3 of a second might not sound like a lot, but as soon as you take out the all-wheel drive and the world's most careless and aggressive magazine test launch out of the picture, the M5 is gonna walk all over the goddamn GTR from a roll, or even just with a realistic, I actually paid for this launch. Around the track, I also guarantee you it would be neck and neck with the smallest things that make or break each car's individual advantages. A longer track with more straights, the M5 is gonna put some bus lengths on the GTR. But on a tight technical course that would allow the all-wheel drive to have a little bit more of an advantage to get the GTR out of the corners quicker, it's probably gonna take the cake. Worst case scenario, you're nose to nose with Godzilla around your favorite racetrack for $85,000 less dollars. Not a bad way to spend 15 grand on a car, but you know what's better than a big old sports car slaying V8 sedan from a German luxury car company? A big old sports car slaying sedan from an American car company. The Cadillac CTSV V1 is a bargain GTR competitor. And honestly, it's kind of the same car as the M5, it's a little bit different. Like, they both make 400 horsepower. Just one's a 4.9 and the other one can get a 5.7 or a 6-liter that both make the same horsepower. They're both 6-speeds. They're both properly rear-wheel drive. The V also dips into the very low 13-second quarter mile and would 200% touch the high 12s with nothing but a sticky tire. And so the V has the same advantages as the M5. Lots of power, sophisticated chassis engineering, allows it to handle very well, considering the weight, and it outpowers a lot of cars in this price range by a lot. I mean, come on, who would have thunk for 10, 15 grand you could go get a really stupid, shitty 2000s Cadillac CTS that would outperform everything the Godzilla can throw at it? But moving away from the V8 and somehow still sticking with sedans, there's a real hot competitor at this price point, because this next car is also all-wheel drive. It's also a 6-cylinder and it's also boosted just like the R34 GTR, but in this case it's a V6 and it's supercharged. The B8 Audi S4 is an absolute masterpiece of engineering for the money. First off, I've witnessed these cars with my very own eyes running the 12.8 seconds in the quarter mile completely stock, running in the 4.4 to 4.5 second range to 60. These cars also somehow handle ridiculously well. And that's kind of what I mean about the masterpiece of engineering. The whole freaking engine hangs out in front of the front axle. The steering wheel isn't centered to the seat, and it falls pretty well on the heavy side. On paper, these things should suck, and I think that's why a lot of people sleep on them. But man, somehow Audi really engineered out all of these issues. I have no idea how they did it, but the car just telepathically does whatever you want it to. It's just a shame that it does everything so well that it also kind of lacks character. But this thing will absolutely decimate a lot of cars on the street, including an R34 GTR stock for stock. Now, before we move on from the S4, every time I talk about a B8 S4, there's 300 BMW guys that come out of the woodwork and harp on me about the E90, E92 335i's, and they just don't compete. I'm sorry, maybe next time. Now, you know we couldn't actually make it through this list without talking about a Mustang, all right? I mean, come on, we're talking about bang for your buck performance here. It's hard to beat a Mustang for the money, let's be real. As long as you can go buy a pre/post facelift S197 Coyote car for under $15,000, it's always going to make these friggin' lists. Then everything is over 400 horsepower from the factory. If you launch and ship these things like you stole them, they're getting into the 12s completely unmodified without an all-wheel drive launch. These cars make really good use of the power that they do have. The variable valve timing Ford developed for these engines is pretty damn good, and it lays down an impressive power curve to punch quite well above its power rating. Sure, you might get made fun of for driving a Mustang with a live rear axle, but it has the power to kind of negate that lack of power going to the front wheels to help it out. But maybe the best way to go for just 15 grand, if you put up against an R34 and some sort of freak real life Forza Horizon 5 challenge, you gotta go with the good old fashioned, New Balance wearing, retirement home having Chevrolet Corvette. A true sports car that takes motorsport just as seriously as the GTR did. And these days you can get into an early C6 Corvette under that $15,000 mark, which means you're getting that 400 horsepower 6-liter LS2 V8, essentially the same one found in the 05 and up CTSV V1s and the GTOs, but it's in a much lighter, much more nimble platform. And if the V1 outdid the GTR, the C6 will put bus lengths on it. I mean, you're talking about a rear-wheel drive car going 0 to 60 as quick as an all-wheel drive twin-turbo R34 GTR. It decimates a GTR in the quarter mile with a 12.6 second elapsed time at 114 miles an hour for less than a quarter of the price. Now I get it. These cars that I mentioned may outperform a GTR, but they will never have the presence, the soul, or the collectability that the GTR has. A C6 Corvette might have a better lap time, but the GTR is a showstopper. Is it worth 100 grand? I don't know, but it sure is sick. Now I'm sure I could go on for hours about cars that are better than R34 GTRs, but then I wouldn't be able to ask you guys what you think should have made the list that I didn't mention. Don't forget to throw your questions and suggestions down in the comments as well. We literally read all of them and are looking for the next big video idea from you guys. So let us know what kind of content you want to see. Make sure to head over to the website and see all of our early Black Friday deals, and of course, make sure to check out the giveaway page as well and grab some apparel or accessories to get entered to win a modified Honda S2000 and $10,000 cash for as little as $5. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Sean Beta FI on Instagram. Peace.